Next book, the Master Code book by Karl Monk. This is going to go into pyramid building on this earth, why we built pyramids, where we built them first, and what was the purpose of it. We walk around and we go see the Pyramid of Giza, and we go see the Sun Pyramid, we go to Chichen Itza and all these other places on the planet, and we say, wow, that's great. And then we have a tour guide, and they're telling us, all these particular things. When I went to, the first time I went to Mexico in 2004, I, of course, had a lot of knowledge about the Teotihuacan civilization, the Olmecs, the Mayans. So I knew that they were black folk, and specifically that their proper names were the Turushi or the Amaru or, the indigenous names. We knew this. We knew these were Moorish civilizations. So I went there, and, of course, you had one of the people who were running the tour said that they were a Quiche Maya. But the only problem was he was white. Now, when I look at the glyphs and I see people that are my tone of skin, which is very dark tone, and then I look at him and I see he's white, the question I got to ask is, how did the Olmecs or the Mayans get white? Today, and thousands of years ago when we see them in the carvings, the stones, and the actual painted glyphs, they look like so-called Afro-Brazilians or Afro-Americans. This is the racism that's permeating, and we cannot deal with our nationality properly and our political status properly with other people controlling our history. We want to be from everywhere else except the ground that's under our feet, and we've been here, so we need to start learning why we put these monuments and other things here. And our ancestors knew that we put these monuments here for specific purposes, right? There's eons of history in these monuments, and we need to learn why they're here. Right? We need to learn why we placed them here, and they're not there for decoration. They're there for scientific reasons. There have been many cataclysms on this planet, and we were smart enough to know how to stabilize the planet with these particular monuments. And this is not a New Age pseudo-science. This is a real science that we're going to get into tonight. All right? So we're covering some of the books. Again, that was by Karl Monk. I have other books here, but those are the 5 main ones we're going to use tonight. Let's start chopping this up. And before we go into chopping this up, let me say a few other things. There are a lot of people that have been trashing our society and saying, y'all can't represent the Moors and, y'all not any way associated. And, I haven't been on Blog Talk Radio. This is my first time in the capacity of speaking out as one of the ministers of the International Society of Indigenous Sovereigns. There's a lot of things that have been said about us. We'll cover those things, not tonight on another level, but I want to say this. We are here to edify each other, brothers and sisters. And all this attempting to tear each other down that I've heard on Blog Talk Radio being done by us is only because we have no vision and no focus. So we need to actually start getting some focus and some vision so we can build ourselves up properly. All right? So this is about edification. This is not about any other thing. So now let's start out with these theories. Now, the first area I'm going to start out with is some research that you can go further to verify some of the things that I'm going to say. We know from conventional Orthodox studies that the alleged oldest civilization in the Americas, Orthodox scholars call the Olmec civilization. All right? The Olmec civilization, centered in Central America, at La Venta and other places in Central America, is considered to be about 1,500 to 3,000 years old by conventional archaeologists. All right, and of course, they have connected this particular group of people to people who have so-called Negroid features, because when you see the huge stones with the large noses, oh man, that's black folk. It can be nobody else phenotypically. All right, great. But we have a problem. The problem is not that, we can easily verify who the people are. The Olmec, we see the phenotypes, we see those particular things. Problem is when there's an opportunity to dig further and to find out information about the particular civilization, there is a tendency amongst so-called African-American scholars to try to make everybody from Africa, based on the Louis Leakey theory and the whole orthodox white Eurocentric theory that we all evolved from apes. So now what you have is, anytime you find anybody on the planet, anywhere else, they have to be African. Now, there's a problem with that. There's a serious problem with that, and I got to start off there because nothing I say will make sense if I don't start out there. And starting out there is a good place to start because we're going to break up a lot of BS or baloney. Now, take in mind that I'm not insulting anybody. I'm not trying to denigrate our scholars, but I want to make it clear. To attempt to make all Aboriginal people who are phenotypically black and brown fall under the historical status of African is a mistake that has been guided by two groups of people. One, ignorant people who just go to universities created by white folks who follow their systematic structure of white supremacy. That's one. And the second group are those who are more learned amongst these so-called black people or the white people who want to cover and hide history. And they do this intentionally. So you got an ignorant group and you got the group that's carrying out the phenomena intentionally. Now, we did a presentation on this. It's called the Aboriginal Paradigm versus the CIA Columbia University-controlled Afrocentricity. And we broke down a lot of things about the repatriation movement and the use of the term African, how it came out of the Prince Hall Lodge, and how this was an attack on history. Now, for all of you who might not have access to large amounts of books and volumes and be able to travel, I want you to do something if you're on the phone now or later on. Go to Google and type in the word Africa province. And what's going to happen is you might get some resources of some sort that give you the history of the use of the term Africa. And what you're going to find out is that it was white folk who created the first African province, all right, in 146 BC. And they did this after they conquered some of your ancestors who we call Carthaginians under the Carthaginian Empire. It's not, Carthage is not the name, the true name. They were the people of Punt or Topton Wet, or the puny people, or so-called where we get the Greek use of puny or Phoenician. These were Moors. These were Aboriginals. But in 146 BC, the Romans conquered a small province and named it African Proconsularis. And after naming Africa Proconsularis, these white Romans colonized that particular area and became the first Africans. Now, that might sound crazy to you, but it's historically a fact that the first Africans were white, and white folks, white Romans, made up that particular name. The Aboriginal and indigenous peoples of that particular landmass never called themselves Africans, so to call yourself African today is a term that denotes that you are colonized and do not know your history. Now, you might not be able to stomach that, but it is a fact. All right? So we need to check this information out for ourselves. And we will find that the first coins were African coins with white faces on them. You'll find emperors like Emperor Hadrian and others who were white Romans who were considered Africans. Now we have 54, 55 countries on that particular continent, all with pretty much so-called phenotypically black leaders. And they are all controlled by white people, financially, etc. A lot of us over here, we cry about, well, we need land. You can't be sovereign without land. You can't go to Africa and say our people don't got no land. They got more land than you can think of. But It goes to show you can have all the land that you want. If you don't have your mind, you are still a slave.